again, my name is Koen Deetman. I'm the game director of Kaioken Interactive, and I called this presentation From Kitchen Table to Publisher Advance, mostly because I'm going to talk about my road to kind of like realizing the dream I had 3 years ago. And at the time, I didn't exactly knew how it would turn out. However, I did know what type of games I wanted to make. So I was in the beginnings an indie that didn't want to do the smaller games. I always ended up making bigger ones. So this story is about Deliver Us the Moon. That's the game we're making right now, and I'm going to show you a short trailer from that game right now.
I'm afraid the worst has happened. Operation Global Remedy has failed, and we are looking at a vast depletion of the Earth's resources.
Should we engage on our final backup plan?
This astronaut is the only chance humanity has left for survival.
Are you aware this is a do or die mission? Once we launch, there's no turning back.
We have no choice. All mankind depends on it. Please, deliver us the moon. Deliver us.
Please. Deliver us. Please. Deliver us.
The moon.
That was Deliver Us the Moon. Quickly telling you guys, this is we call this a lunar space adventure. It's an exploration game. Not in terms David Westman was talking about like earlier today, but more in terms of exploring the environments on the moon and abandoned bases. I'm not talking about the game, I'm talking about the process that actually got us there. 3 years ago, I actually set up this company, Kaioken Interactive, and Kaioken is actually my nickname from the time I did esports. And I remember me doing Soldier of Fortune 2, you had like these clan-based international ladders, and I just wanted to be the #1 in that game. So 4 years later, I achieved that. Just from my 13th till 18th, I actually did that. So from that point, I thought, if I would actually ever make a company, I would hopefully get another success with that name. So Kaioken is actually my nickname. I started to do this with Johan and Paul. Paul is my brother. Johan is a good friend of me. And there's me actually 3 years ago, a little younger. I didn't have the beard yet. I was thinking with the three of them to find a way how to create a sustainable developer. And of course, that's really hard because we started with nothing. We actually started at the kitchen table with zero money, with zero anything, zero computers. Think about it. 3 years later, above you can see the old office. That's actually a little further in the process already. Down the new office that's quite expanded. Yeah, we somehow, I always thought in the beginning that it would turn out this way, but I never, you know, the hardest part is, I think I heard someone say today, but realizing this it's actually a lot of work. So although sometimes people hope that it just happens out of nothing, we kind of knew that principle already. So we went from 5 to 9 to 20 people in these 3 years. As a growing company, talking about Kaioken Interactive. And this is I think this is the most important sentence. Execution is key. You just execute upon your idea, always. So if, for example, it's actually nested in all of our development, is that if you think something is right, prove it to us, like show it to us in a prototype, show it to us in a picture or whatever, but execution is key. So once something's there, we can talk about it and we can iterate upon that process. So that's what we actually did throughout the whole company, and that's something we keep doing today. So a little bit about our setup. And this is not really ordinary, and it's very expensive in the beginning because you actually lose a lot of money on this. But we were thinking about how to create a sustainable place to fund and create a developer. So we have these 3 holdings, those are all companies by Paul, me, and Johan. We have a mid holding that holds all our shares, actually. Then you have Kaioken Interactive, that's where Deliver Us the Moon's made. We have Ambience, that's kind of like a consultancy area for, or company for Scrum and agile processes. We also have Hunchback Music that makes trailer music for things like Creed, Justice League, Hollywood movies, Daredevil, HBO. Paul is the one who's doing Hunchback Music, the one that's actually his dream to make a lot of very cool pieces of music for big productions like that. Johan didn't really have a dream. He just wanted to kind of make a sustainable environment. So we thought, at least, that if you would do this process, and it didn't come out of the blue. It's my dad actually has this kind of structure for his own, but then when you start out, it's kind of ambitious. So, but what it actually helps that if some company doesn't work, you can just cut it off, and other companies wouldn't actually suffer from that. Problem, or if there's anything going on there, you can just keep continuing with the others. Also, it's interesting that you can kind of create sustainable environment in your funding as well. So, first of all, we had the idea to start with Hunchback and Kaioken Interactive, because Ambience was kind of like providing for those companies. Anyway, we used a lot of funding mixes to actually get this project up to par and having 20 people actually in your studio. So the first one we did was savings, of course. We had a lot of savings. We had, or actually not a lot, but I think when you start out as a student with 5K, it's quite a lot of money. So, of course, family helped out. That was the start. We also got a subsidy. At the time, you still had the Game Fund in Holland. It's actually now it's the Creative Industries Fund. I think it's kind of more global. But we actually, tried to get some funding from them for a horror game we were creating at the time. And we actually got 15K for that. That really made a way for a sustainable environment to work on. So we had a little office, a couple of computers, not much, working with 3 or 4 people at the time, full time. We also had an angel investor, but this one is a little interesting. This is the one we created. We created our own angel investor with the other companies, bringing in already 70,000 euros. So that was also money we can do more with, we can invest more with. Then we went to crowdfunding, did a Kickstarter campaign, got 100K. Interesting story, tell you a little bit more about it. And we had a publisher advance last November, securing €500,000 euros to invest in our project. So that's a lot of mixes. And I remember another talk, I think it was Leonie Manshanden. She was talking about funding mixes for aspiring developers, that they shouldn't go for one, but just try to mix something up. And that's actually what I did. So quickly on the timeline, 2014, we got a subsidy, and we went to work on the horror game, and we did work for hire like 50% of the time as well. The problem is I wouldn't recommend that, because neither one of those projects actually came to something. It was always we needed more time for the client, or it was we needed more time for the actual IP we tried to develop. So what it turned out that the client was like not happy. Actually, I think we didn't lose it, but we lost it. But we kind of in time we spent around 50,000 euros on a client to just help them out, and that they were still happy at the end. Losing a lot of time on the game as well, so the game actually didn't got the attention, so that's a no-go. So in November 2014, I decided to switch engines, because I wasn't happy with the results at the time. We were using Unity at the time for the horror game, and I just found out about Unreal Engine 4. So the principles of Deliver Us the Moon were in 2014. yeah, so the work for hire, Horrend, here you have a picture of it. It didn't work out for us at the time. So in December 14, this is how the game, Deliver Us the Moon, looked. It was like a basic level. We tried to kind of like it uses like inspirations from 2001, Space Odyssey, of course, Interstellar, Gravity, The Martian even. And then 2015 hit. So we started development of Deliver Us the Moon in the beginning. Like it actually, we tried to create a prototype that was presentable. So in May, our first public showcase was at In Development. Was sadly this year it actually is not here anymore because they didn't find enough funding. But that's the first time we showed a playable version of Deliver Us the Moon and got our first feedback from many people. Then we went to Gamescom, and this was a little bit preparing already for a crowdfunding project because at this time we were already running out of money, and this one, because Gamescom costed us around 3,500 euros, 4,000 euros to actually present something. That should have been like we should have collected a lot of emails. So we luckily did collect 2,000 emails to finally start preparations for Kickstarter. That time the game looked like this. This is the first presentation we did. 2016, this is an interesting year. After preparations, we did the Kickstarter in February and we hit 100K. With that money, we could immediately, because I always had set my goals straight, we could invest in hardware, so we spent around 20,000 euros on real computers, something that could actually run Unreal Engine. And we could, of course, travel the world. So at that moment, we were invited by Microsoft. They were just smashing out these emails to developers, like, hey, if you want to have a spot on our booth, just try to email us right now because we have some spots left. So at June 2016, I was going to E3 with our playable demo at the time, and that place wasn't necessarily for getting a lot of attention for the game in terms of press or showcases. It was for me the first moment that I started to look for actual publishing, because I knew already that if I would actually want to have a bigger game like this, it's impossible to do it on your own. If you might be able to get it out on your own, but it's too hard, in my opinion, as like a first-timer. So that's where we actually met our publisher today. But we met a lot of publishers during this time, and a little bit more about that later. So we met Starbreeze at E3. Starbreeze has visited us at the studio in July. In August, we went to Gamescom. We met them again. In September, we got an invite to Stockholm because Starbreeze is a Swedish company. And we secured a deal sealed in November of €500,000 euros of investment and them publishing the game. That's what the game looked like at that time. So, a little comparison here. July 2015 and 16. This is actually what happens when you have more money and just get more people on your project. So, July 2016 is made by, I think, 10 to 12 people. July is about 5 to 8 people. And now we are in 2017, and we're still going. This is what it starts to look like right now. And there's actually way more stuff, but I sadly can't show just yet. But let's quickly start about this one. Savings, easy, family, people that help you with a little bit of money to start your projects. Subsidy, how do you do that? Well, here you have the Creative Industries Fund, Games Funds. At the time, you just actually create a sustainable business plan for them. Hard thing is they sometimes want something very creative, so sometimes you have to write towards them to actually get something from them. But I would say try to stick with their rule sets, make a good business plan, and you might end up with and don't ask for too much. For example, if they have a fund of 100K and they're gonna give a lot of subsidies to, or actually they want to support more companies and projects, it would be strange to ask for 80,000 euros because then they could do you and maybe someone else. So that's not wise. Angel investor. How did we create our own angel investor? Well, picture before, these two companies were actually earning money because, for example, Hunchback Music makes a trailer and it gets paid. So it's like money that's in a little bit quicker. So we could invest that immediately into the game company. Ambience, who was actually, this is the funniest one, because we tried to sell ourselves like way too high. So we had a hourly rate was a little bit too high for our standards at the time. We were just students, so but we kept trying to sell, for example, Johan for around 70 to 80 euros an hour as a student, and eventually after 80 applications, 80, almost reaching up to a 90. He finally got a job that actually at like a investor somewhere in the north of Holland. That actually got us around 60,000 euros to spend in Kaioken Interactive again. And the good thing is, because he's a shareholder, it doesn't really matter for him. It's for his own company as well. So that's how we kept on running. So that's how we actually kept on the lights of the studio. But still, it was super hard to invest on real stuff. So we went to Kickstarter, and we crowdfunded 100K plus, and that took around 5 months in preparation time. How do we do that? We did build a community beforehand. So we ran a Greenlight campaign. That's the place on Steam where you, of course, sell your game. Actually got a lot of fans already on the product. Also, a good thing about this is you could send out keys already to people. So if you would like YouTubers or social media or whatever, people want to play your game, they can actually do it, or if you decide upon a demo. Also, the newsletter on Gamescom helped a lot. During, we sent it out around, I think, to around 10,000 like press people and social media and YouTubers. And we got lucky, hit by this biggest German YouTuber at the time, who was so mesmerized by the game that, he actually helped us do a special stream for us, and a little bit more about that after this. And after, we do our own Twitch streams and YouTube vlogs and videos. Actually, right now, Mariska is filming me even for a little bit, because this will eventually turn up on YouTube again as well. So, community is key, because this guy, Gronk, actually did a special Deliver Us the Money stream. And it sounds very strange, but to me it was at the time. But he was able to at least get half of the Kickstarter in. So 50,000 euros was actually spent by his community on us. Mostly because he just embraced us. And what happened at the time, we didn't actually plan anything, but I thought, wouldn't it be fun and hype up everything if I could broadcast our office at the time and just show our response? Because, Jesus, if people are spending so much money on us, it should, of course, we need to kind of thank them in some way, you know. So that actually hyped up everything, and we reached over, I think, 2 million views at the time, because most of his live viewers are around 30,000 people live. So we got a lot of people over time. 10 takeaways about that. Take your time and do in-depth research for your Kickstarter. And actually design it really on your game, on your company, and what you need. Get your pricing tiers right. Try to do some upselling in there. You don't want to have a lot of small paying customers, because then you need a lot of backers. And if you have them kind of like sell up to a nice, maybe even 60 euros, you don't need so many people eventually to get 100K. Pitch every social media influencer. We actually didn't care about if you would do mobile or whatever. We just smashed everyone, and we kept doing that throughout the whole Kickstarter, like I think 4 times. So in the beginning, kind of before the middle, in the middle, right before the ending, and on the ending. Strive for clarity, avoid uncertainty. Well, this has 2 sides, because you don't want to promise too much in your Kickstarter, but you do want to clarify a little bit of what you're promising them. But if you do that too much, you're kind of pinned down on that. Define your budgeting. Yeah, don't lie to yourself. Just tell them, or actually ask what you need. But if that would be 500,000, then you should be sure to take a lot more preparation time in your Kickstarter to eventually reach that goal. Define your digital and physical rewards. Yeah, of course. Physicals, of course, lower, not in the early tiers. Build your community before, during, and after. That's actually an ongoing process, so keep doing that. Understand the right anatomy for your Kickstarter. Yeah, all of these Kickstarters have their own behavior. It's not that my Kickstarter is going to be redone by someone else. It actually has been by Pine, also a Dutch company or game, and they reached out to me for a lot of questions about this, but their whole process became eventually very different from ours, but it did reach 100K as well. Prepare everyone for a tough period because you're not going to be able to design or develop the game. However, I did have, I think, 4 people still working on the project. It's a dead period. And a demo can help or break your Kickstarter. Yeah, it depends. If it's really good, try it. If it doesn't, just keep it out of there because people are going to just smash your demo whatsoever. Even if it's a good one, they're just going to kill it. Publisher advance. Publishing Deliver Us the Moon. Yeah, we wanted, we needed a publisher. And we needed it because we needed development experience. We were first-timers, so I was like, I need an experienced publisher to help us out. We need marketing power, because if you have bigger budgets like this, you just need to smash it with marketing as well. Otherwise, it wouldn't ever get to sales numbers to actually get that return of investment. Project guidance, because the first timers, we're all students still. It's still a very young team, and I think they could guide us in a way that we get more professional, have a better view on how to work with a bigger game like this. And of course, extra funding for growth, because we couldn't invest anymore, and 500,000 is still actually not a lot. In this case, if you want to find one, confidence is key. So you have to have a lot of confidence in your product, even if the prototype doesn't necessarily do everything you want it. Just make sure that it stands out in a way that they just have to talk to you. So our aesthetics were pretty on par at the time to some AAA games. So that immediately drew attention to some of them. So this is the publisher we talked to. We talked to Square Enix, and these were the serious ones, not the ones that actually just tried to talk to us, but the ones that actually came with deals. Bandai Namco, Starbreeze, of course, Telltale Games, Sudesco, Take-Two, and EA. To talk a little bit about some of them is, there's a couple of them that have these old school thoughts of games, such as a 90-10 deal. So they immediately take 90% of the sales you eventually make, and they only give you 10 in the end. Then they wanted to invest 500,000, for example. You have to think about these companies actually spend a lot more. They spend hundreds of millions on games and having deals like that. So 500,000 euros, although it sounds much, it's not much. It's nothing. It's cheap. Some of them actually didn't want to spend too much on us, so they said something like, yeah, you get a marketing budget of 120K and that's it, so no funding, nothing. And I was immediately like, that sounds like a very bullshit deal, because if you really want to empower this, you need some trust from them as well. Also a little bit risk in that sense as well. Some of them actually wanted to do the same deal as we had, but for way less or for a higher percentage. So we eventually ended up with Starbreeze, and I'm going to tell you why. We really love them, and that's because they had like an ongoing relationship with us throughout this process. So I was actually looking at all these deals and all these talks we had, and this wasn't only E3, it was Gamescom, it was all through, like, I think around 6 months it took me to finally make a choice. We wanted a company cultural fit, meaning that they understand how we are in the studio and how we develop. that they actually could provide us with our needs. So they should be able to invest a large amount of money. And think about this, dev budget can be 500K, but you can also have 500K in marketing. So, for example, they should need that power, or they should have that power. I wanted a fair deal, so I don't want to, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the fair deal later. Disciplined fun. So we can have a lot of fun, but it should be for a lot of discipline. You do that with a lot of discipline as well. So everybody can have fun in the team, but you should work as well.
Want me to stand here next to you and go?
Sorry. A quick video about what I mean by our cultural fit with Starbreeze, because, and this isn't necessarily what you should take as an example, but this is our fit. This is how we roll with
like a couple of others?
Maybe even Bo, maybe even Michael. Yeah. We'll see.
All right, guys, so I'm here. Are you ready?
Are we rolling?
Yeah, rolling.
Okay. I'm here with Almir.
Jordy, are we rolling?
We're rolling.
We're rolling, all right. Go on.
We roll.
What were you saying? Sorry.
I'm here with Almir. This is the guy from Starbreeze that literally made the dream possible. You know, we were talking about it in Starstream before, but when we saw each other, there was a lot of love immediately, and I know that you felt it as well. Isn't that true?
Of course. was that it?
No, it's just, you know, we want to thank you, and the event, I have to tell you as well, because this is going to be after the stream, you did a phenomenal job. And actually, what I like about this is now I'm you doing what you did to me, and I want to let you know, you really, you were very, very good. You know, your beard is crisp. Your wit and your words were phenomenal.
Thank you.
These are things that I measure a character of a man, so I was very impressed. And you need to know that. And also, a personal just thank you, because none of this would have been possible without you, and that's really the truth. You know, I could say to anybody who is ever considering working at Starbreeze, you know, this is someone that's a pleasure to work with. You know how to reach out to Indie Labs. I'm not going to tell anyone how to do that, but you know how to do it. And if you get the opportunity to work with a guy like this, he will push for you in ways that you can't imagine.
Thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. Get over here. Thank you, man.
No, don't let go.
You know I won't. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so that is kind of like how we are with them, and this is very unconventional, but this is how we felt all the time. So when you do a deal, try to figure out if they really fit with you, and if you do have a great relationship with your producer, or actually that's the most important one, because you're going to talk a lot to them about everything. And it also makes it possible to do a little bit more, and this is all combined with hard work, so I cannot have this relationship if I don't show up with results. The deal was 50-50, and that's fair in my opinion, because if you would, Starbreeze is a big company. They have a lot of money each year coming in. And if you would actually tighten up a publisher by saying like, yeah, we want 80%, you 20%, they are like, yeah, whatever, because big companies need to make big money. So once they actually get something that looks like bigger, like a good chance for bigger money or a good deal, they start to work for you as well. So rather than taking more for yourself, like, yeah, because we developed the game, I thought about them like, so what is valuable for them? Even if they would get their investment back, would this be, why would I actually, I think I had 3 cases, like one I wouldn't sign, one I might sign, and one that's great, and it was actually better than the great one. This was the best deal I've heard, because they said like 50-50, 500,000K investment, and we had yet to establish marketing budget, but that was done quickly after. Also, $500,000. So a couple of takeaways to almost finalize this. Speak to different publishers. Just speak to a lot, even the smaller ones, the bigger ones. It doesn't really matter. Keep talking to them, because it might happen that you hear something that you really like to do or work with. Be honest. Just tell them really what is your problem or what you're looking for, because honesty up to date is the one that actually kept us standing even with them, and they start to understand you. Even if it's scary when the money is starting to pull in and you're like, oh shit, but we are actually not reaching that milestone fully. Just be honest and be quick about it. Don't be scared to disagree with them, because there's moments, and that's usually the question I get, like how much can you decide yourself? I can decide anything still. I can just change something and completely disagree with what they see. But however, it's interesting if they would if you would have a big disagreement, then think about how the vision of you is not working with them or isn't actually something they see your game turn out to. So if you would agree a lot, it's actually good, then the vision is alike. Tell them what you're looking for. Yeah, just tell them what you're looking for, whatever it is, funding, marketing power, and you can quickly hear in most talks, like, okay, they're not going to give this at all to me. Remember, there are humans too, because you are always dealing with human beings. And I think if a relationship is more spent on the maybe more emotional level, you can reach people a little bit deeper, and you can find their understanding a bit better. You help them as well. Keep remembering that, because we are a cheap deal. They just have to spend 500,000 euros to get a game that might actually do as well as most 10 to 15 million budgets they spend on. Make sure to have a roadmap. Yeah, they always ask for that. Roadmaps and what are you aiming for, and don't worry to change it after. Just show them what you think you need in time. And definitely have a lawyer check out your contract, because it happens a lot that they just, sometimes they write stuff that's so lawyery that you just have to have someone that knows what it is. And there was even a part in there that is especially for lawyers, so I was like, what is this saying? But my lawyer said, that was for me, actually. That was something for me. Make sure you're very good at selling or pitching your game. Just keep practicing selling it, because the guy you just saw, Elmer from Starbeast, he said, like, you guys are great at selling your game. You even sold it to me. So the team at home usually says, like, oh, Koen, the game looks shit. How in hell did it get funding like this? Well, we did sell it for €500,000 already. So in that sense, the game was something already. Don't go for the obvious unless it fits. Yeah. So, for example, if you were a really big fan of EA or Square Enix, first you're flattered, but then you're like, okay, get real, because is this deal seriously something that's going to help me or actually going to kill me? So, yeah, don't go for the obvious unless it fits. And this is my standard line: just never give up, because if you start to think about stopping or realizing that something doesn't work, you will stop. And I have many times that I was like, what am I doing? But just don't give up, and you will eventually reach it. I cannot say otherwise. Thank you for listening. So I can hear you guys.
Hi, thanks for the talk. What happens if you get to the bottom of the 500,000 and you've not shipped?
Yeah, that's an interesting process. Factually, it stops, but you have to kind of figure out before that happens. Let's say if we would go overtime, they will keep funding. But the thing is, I don't like that. I want to be in budget, and that still is. But the best thing is if you have bigger companies like this, money is not the problem. For example, they are on the stock market, so they get a lot of money in, and they just want opportunity. So if you study them, and for example, they're doing something big with VR, and I started already to think about, okay, shit, so how do I fit in? Because this deal was not made for a one-time deal. This was made for the future. We wanted to keep continuing with them. If you be early enough and talk about these things, you might establish new budget even for other stuff, but it's kind of like an ongoing process. But yeah, factually, we'll be dead.
Any other questions?
No questions? Thank you for listening, guys.